55. I'm pulling up to Walmart. Do we have a location exactly yet?
The RP is going to be standing by in the toilet paper section closest to the milk. She stated staff there assaulted her.
Okay, I have 4.
4:30 PD.
Hi.
So then show me en route to 55's location for the toilet paper assault.
Therefore.
42 to 30. Can you send that?
10-4, I'm just en route to his location for the toilet paper assault.
Okay, yeah. 10-4, toilet paper assault. 10-4.
12:30.
4:30 PD, show me 23.
Therefore.
55. I will be 10-8 from that toilet paper assault.
Therefore.
Well, not much to say about that, but that gives you an idea of what the police departments are dealing with around here. The supply of foodstuffs is hit or miss. Stuff is coming in, but it's pretty difficult to complete a shopping list. Hope you all are doing well. Feel free to let me know how you're doing out there. Let's take a look at the weather across the U.S. and see what's going on. In the southwestern U.S., kind of a quiet pattern. The back edge of that polar front is backed up against the mountains of northwest Mexico there. And you can see a little bit of convergence there in the wind field. Out there in West Texas, pretty cold with lots of lower 40s and foggy, drizzly weather. And you saw a bit of that on the opening clip where we've got low ceilings here also. As you go up into the high plains of Colorado, we start getting that southerly flow. Winds out of the south. And as you go north, even a few 60s around the Springfield, La Junta area. Another thing we see is southwesterly flow across Arizona. That's either being driven by high pressure offshore or being driven by low pressure inland, one of the two. I kind of think this is probably a low pressure area inland. Maybe a little bit of upper level lift, possibly working on this area here in the Four Corners area. And we see lots of showers there in the Rockies. A lot of this is going to be up in the passes, but it is showery, lots of cumuliform clouds, and we're going to expect to see that on the satellite imagery. That polar front has slowed down in the southeastern U.S., just now going through the Atlanta and Pensacola area. And we got a little bit of a warm front there in southern Carolina. And it's still summer-like in Florida with lots of mid-80s. There's the northeast U.S., high pressure across the UP of Michigan, bringing that northerly wind down into the Midwest area. See there you go. There's that north wind through the Midwest, and then we see a new frontal system. This is kind of an Alberta clipper, quite warm in the Dakotas. And we can see that warm front's there. If we take that 50s, upper 40s, contrast that with the low to mid 30s, and that gives us our position pretty well. And then there's that other cold front with not much of a push of air behind it, little touch of snow showers in northwestern North Dakota and adjacent parts of Saskatchewan. And this is the picture I'm looking at in the Pacific Northwest. Looks like maybe a series of two very weak Alberta clippers coming southeastward there, and behind it there's some 30s there in the Calgary-Edmonton area. So things are starting to warm up a little bit. Probably going to be another mild day to our weekend tomorrow, and there in Portland, Willamette Valley, Seattle, looks pretty mild, 50s to mid-60s. And kind of a weak northwesterly flow, so I'm kind of inclined to think maybe a bit of a cold front in that area. Very mild conditions in the high deserts of Oregon, upper 50s to lower 60s. So we know that that's probably part of the warm air mass there, and that'll probably contrast a bit with these cold 40s coming on shore. And there's a quick look what's happening up in Alaska and Canada. Looks like kind of a deep trough moving through the high Arctic islands. Yukon, Northwest Territories, a little bit mild. I guess that's probably seasonable as far as temperatures. And looks like 35 there in Fairbanks with a little bit of snow, similar in Anchorage. I kind of wonder how some of these far-flung communities up there are dealing with the threat of this virus. I may have to take a look at some of those websites in Nunavut and see what they're doing. There's how things look in California and Nevada and off the coast. Lots of cumuliform clouds in the Great Basin area, so obviously we've got a bit of troughing affecting that part of the country. And offshore, cyclonic spinning, so we've got at least an upper-level low out in that area. And we saw from the GFS that that'll probably be approaching the coast in the next day or two. In the Pacific Northwest, looks really nice like what we said there. Lots of fair skies and off the coast. Looks like some cold air advection coming down. It's not super strong cold air advection because it's kind of a flat pancake stratocumulus shape underneath there, but it is moving southward. In Texas, we've got that classic southwesterly flow over a cold dome, and we can see that cold dome in the form of stratus and fog. See, there's the edge right there. That's low clouds, and that extends all the way down here and all through this area here. And on top of that, in blue, you can see the higher clouds. This is all cirriform stuff. And there's some little anvils right there, and transverse bands, probably another jet segment, and some of that's cirrus too. So we've got jet stream activity over the top of a cold dome, and that's going to concentrate isentropic lift in this area right here. And right in this zone, you can see where the actual convection is. So probably some very showery precip in the Abilene and San Angelo and Ballinger area. And in New Mexico, we've got some good convection along the Colorado-New Mexico border. Likely upper-level trough working through that area. And I would probably take a closer look at those surface boundaries because there could be something in there. This is kind of indicative of maybe a cold front, maybe hooking up with the stuff down to the south. The northern plains, fair but unsettled. We know we've got that warm air advection down there in Nebraska and South Dakota, and some cold air advection behind that front in northwestern South Dakota. So remember, the fronts are kind of doing something like that there. And you can see a little bit of that isentropic lift out ahead of the warm front, and it kind of wraps around to kind of like a vague comma shape up there in North Dakota. So that's kind of the way the systems are set up. So a very nice day in Nebraska, kind of burning away some of that snow that you see right there. And then kind of cold and cloudy all the way from Minneapolis up to Fargo and Bismarck. In the southeast U.S., a warm day. We know that the front is running something like that. Warm front, kind of like that. Low pressure in this area. So the front is kind of dormant because I'm seeing mostly just low cloud, very little mid and upper level. So this is all like stratocumulus there from northern Alabama up to Kentucky. Looks a little more unstable along the warm front, but not quite any showers just yet. Most of the mid and upper level clouds are back in Louisiana and Texas in this area. And up in the northeast U.S., a fair day. Kind of a cold northerly flow, kind of like what we pointed out earlier, across Ohio and Indiana. And up north, you can see all those frozen lakes up there in Ontario and Quebec. So we're just on the edge of winter changing over to spring, and we should see a warm-up in that part of the continent very, very soon. Then we'll just take a quick look at the dynamics over the next week or so. Yeah, lots of troughing around midweek in the west coast. Kind of a flat zonal pattern across the central and eastern U.S. That trough kind of digs into the southwestern U.S. by Thursday, Friday. So you can see that split flow pattern coming together by Friday. There's the southern stream, and there's the northern stream. So we'll have two sets of fronts, one focusing on Texas, maybe New Mexico and Arizona, and another one mostly up in the Canadian provinces. Then going forward, let's see what happens. Getting into the first week of April. Wow, look at that strong zonal flow coming onto the northwest coast there. So we're going to have the storm track coming right into Washington and Oregon, and those waves will dig all the way down to Texas with this kind of setup. Be kind of stormy. So here comes another wave south, and then the patterns at the very end. We've only got 300 hours there, but they amplify a little bit. So what this could mean, this amplification, that means we could dislodge some polar air masses and drive them south into the central U.S. So it could be kind of a cool start to April for many parts of the country. So that's the weather we got going on. We're going to probably skip the forecast for tonight since we're running late and we don't want to. I'm not so sure it's a good idea to stretch these webcasts out to 20 or 25 minutes because that is pretty long. I think we probably need to aim for short and sweet. If you have any questions or you want to put a letter on the air, you can write metlab@weathergraphics.com. And I got a question here from Edward Davies, and I'll just kind of give you the message right here on the screen. It says, where can I get access to the same weather charts you're using? I'm familiar with the HRRR. It's just the chart you use at the beginning showing the whole U.S. with front, station info, and so on. Yeah, I'm sure I can show you. This is the program I'm using. It's Digital Atmosphere. As many of you may know, this is a program that I wrote. And it is available for download. It's at weathergraphics.com/DA. I think it's DA or... Yeah, just go to weathergraphics.com and you can find it on there. As you can see here, I've optimized it a little bit, and I've used this import planetary map function. So I got a few map sets in here I use. And that gives me the backgrounds here, and then I've kind of adjusted the fonts. So these are the settings I'm using for station plots, 10-point calibri. And then for the analysis settings, I've got the domain size at 80 by 80. I like using the Cressman. It's a little bit slower, but you get better results offshore where there's no data. It tries to draw a little bit of curvature out there. And I've got it kind of where there's, the lines are a little bit rough and ragged, but that helps give me a little extra detail. So I can see, like here in New Mexico, I can take the front drawing tool and say, well, maybe there's a front in this area here. And I can do something like that, and that gives me the graphics that I can use for the weathercast. I can put the fronts right where I want them. And then I don't have to deal with these messy low-res plots from WPC. So that's your weather picture for this evening. Stay healthy, stay isolated, and we'll see you ahead in the upcoming weeks and months. Take care. Bye-bye.